G'day, I'm Nick Clements from York US and welcome to Beyond the Guestimate, where we explore the concept of cost-informing design. I've been involved in the building sector since 1993 and pretty much that whole time I've been frustrated about how our industry works and how inefficient it is. And with that concept of cost-informing design, I take quite a wide view of it. So not just the bit that we're involved in, which is the sort of cost bit, but looking across the whole process and just looking at ways of understanding how our industry works and looking for opportunities for how it can improve. It's been a pretty challenging time over the last few years for most of us involved in the sector. I've been around the country a bit over the last couple of weeks, visiting a few different customers and getting feedback on what's happening. And yeah, a pretty typical example was a builder I talked to in Nelson we've been working with for, 4 or 5 years. He used to have a crew of 8. He's down to 3 on the tools himself. And he said, "Oh, Nick, I'd love to send you a job, but we've got nothing that's worthwhile you pricing." So it's just small kitchens, bathrooms, that sort of thing is what a lot of guys are doing to keep going. It's interesting that we obviously went through the real sugar rush of the COVID period, where the industry just went nuts and we saw demand go through the roof, product access issues, prices go through the roof. And as an industry, it was actually good times in a lot of ways. It was challenging to get through it. We'll keep on top of it, but it was relatively profitable, I guess you could say. But we've obviously now got the low of the sugar rush has worn off, and we've dropped down as an industry, and the last couple of years has really been quite challenging for a lot of businesses. For us, we saw the new house end of the market drop off around the sort of mid to end of 2022, and if you look at the sort of land and house package type market where a lot of the group builders and the like are involved, that really almost disappeared for a couple of years. So the whole new building sector has been really, really challenging over this sort of period of time. I haven't updated my stats for a while, but it's interesting that our industry is really fragmented. So while you hear about a lot of these big builders and a lot of big names, and they obviously build a lot of houses, they typically are pretty small in terms of the total market share. So I'm not exactly sure who the biggest builder in New Zealand is at the moment, but they might be 1 or 2% of the market. And maybe those big guys, those household names you've heard of, might be 20% of the market across the board. So most houses in New Zealand are built by relatively small builders, building typically 1 to 6 houses a year. And that market's had similar sort of issues. So the group builder market has really been driven by the land and house package, which has really died. For that sort of bespoke type house, which is the bulk of the housing, if you're in the sort of first home market, it's been pretty good. So like less than $1 million have been okay, and we've seen quite a lot. We do a lot of projects sort of 2, 3, 4, 5 million. So at that sort of high end, that seems to have carried on without really much of an issue. It's the bit in the middle, which is really where the volume has been, that has largely disappeared. So it's been a pretty challenging time for builders involved in all of those spaces. So if you're a group builder, you've had life pretty tough. If you're in that mid-market, it's been pretty tough. The renovations have probably carried on pretty well, so a lot of guys have sort of moved across into that space. So my guest today is Joe Allen from JRA Construction, and Joe would be very much in that mid space. He's probably doing, I don't know, how many houses a year are you when you were going?
Yeah, at the peak of the market, at most 6 houses a year.
Yep. So Joe would be pretty typical of the average builder in New Zealand in terms of the type of work he does and the sort of challenges that he faces. So I'm looking forward today to just unpicking his journey over the last little while and just seeing what we can learn from it. So I guess start off, Joe, how did you get into building? What sort of made you want to do this trade?
I mean, I've always been really hands-on. I've always liked the outdoors. I've always kind of loved seeing things sort of come to fruition, seeing that tangible finished result. As a kid, I loved the Lego. My parents said I was always really into that sort of stuff and building. And I'm also I'm a bit of one of my 4th generation of sort of carpenters and builders.
4th generation?
Yeah, believe it or not. So, or at least in this industry. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's kind of in the blood, I suppose. So
your dad was a builder, or?
Dad's been, he's got his own painting company.
Oh, okay.
His dad was a carpenter. He made custom furniture. Yep. And his dad was a builder as well, house builder.
Yeah,
so,
okay. Yep.
Yeah.
All in Auckland, or?
All around the place, mostly in Auckland, but Hamilton, North Island, yeah.
So where did you start off then? So you went to school, presumably.
Yep.
So how did the journey go from there? So how did you get into building?
Yeah, I guess at the school that I finished up high school at, we had amazing opportunity to do quite a various sort of range of sort of subjects. So I obviously did your PE, your music, hard materials, tech, boat building, all the sort of very hands-on things, which a lot of people don't obviously get the opportunity to, but I guess I really thrived in that. I got a scholarship off the back of one of those classes, and from there at the Rotary.
So what was the scholarship to do?
Just the head of, the top of that class, I suppose.
Yeah. The scholarship for what? What was it?
So it was from the local Rotary Club.
Yeah.
So they gave a little cash contribution to a kickstart into career. So it was actually just purely a cash thing.
Right.
Obviously aimed toward a trade-based industry. But essentially, here's some cash and please go for it. Do the best you can. But from there, I mean...
And what did you do with the cash?
Yeah.
Buy an old car or put mags on your existing car?
Believe it or not, I turned up to the Rotary Club to receive that scholarship. And from there, I actually scored my first job, which led into the apprenticeship.
Okay.
And so one of the Rotary Club members was an architect.
Right.
His son was looking for a fresh apprentice. And
As a builder?
As a building apprentice. Yeah. And I put my hand up. So 2 weeks after high school, I had a job and was into it. So sort of fell into place more so than me going out looking.
Right. So I'm guessing from your background then it wasn't a mile away from where you were expecting to go. It just
not really. I mean, I always knew I wanted something in hands-on. I don't think I was planned. I'll always be a builder. Nothing really specific. I suppose. Well, I was 18, just turned 18. Still really very young, don't really have an idea. I knew I didn't want to go to uni. I didn't really enjoy the classroom side of schooling. So I think like a lot of guys in our industry, we sort of fall ourselves into there and hopefully it sticks. It seemed to for me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so did you do your time with one company?
Well, I started, that was the end of 2007. So 2008 rolls around and we finish a job and I got the tap on the shoulder from the boss saying, hey, look, I've really been trying, but I've got a baby on the way. Look, I just can't keep you guys on. We don't really have any work coming in. I wish you well, but you got 2 weeks. And so, like a lot of guys, we had to start looking for work.
Yeah, right. I was sort of wondering with your age as to whether, because it's been an extended run of no downturns in the building industry.
Wow.
So that was pretty much the last one, and I wasn't sure whether you just managed to clip
jumped
that
in
to experience it. So a lot of people in the industry that have been more recent entrants have never experienced a downturn, whereas for us grey hairs, this isn't the first rodeo, so to speak. Okay, so what happened? You're then out on the street looking for something?
Yep. Well, to be honest, it didn't last long. Sort of, shoulder tap all your family and friends and see who you can,
build a deck for, or
basically. But also from there, it was sort of the second person you talk to, and they're like, "Hey, I know one of the project managers for a pretty large commercial outfit. They've got some big projects on the way, so why don't you just give them a call?" So I gave Peter a call, and he said, "Come on, got a job for you in 2 weeks."
Right.
So
had you finished your time, or did you?
I hadn't finished my time. There was literally only a year in. I did a year of resi building, and which obviously I loved. And then from there, I did 2 years or just over 2 years of commercial work, and that's where I finished my time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, they only really did the carpentry packages for that, so it's still your sort of carpentry work. But just on a lot larger scale. Yeah. And then, so at what point did you move into your own business? So how long after qualifying as a tradesman did you look at your own business? I jumped back into the residential market as soon as I could.
Right.
So as soon as, the sort of 2010, 2009, 2010 area, sort of the market started to really pick back up in a big way. A lot of houses were, the demand for house builders, really shot through the roof. So I took that opportunity because I knew I really loved that more so than the commercial space. Went back into there and I was back on the tools for another, 7-8 years in the residential space. So working for someone else, sort of building my way up and sort of learning the market, learning how things work, learning the management side of things, learning the chaos that comes with it. But I guess really sort of trying to hone in on the skills that I felt I'd need before I could do that. And so I always thought I would go on my own. I guess like a lot of guys in New Zealand, we're made up of a million different small businesses, so I didn't feel like it was a big step, naively I suppose, but that was always the plan.
So what sort of triggered the point where you actually made the decision to stop working for somebody and do your own thing?
I guess we kind of got to the point where my now wife and I had travelled a lot. We'd sort of used that stable income and base to pay a mortgage, but also be able to travel and work hard, do a few cashes on the side, and yeah, and sort of then use that time to really hone in and think, is this what we want? When we started getting to the point where I felt I was getting a few niggles here and there of how I felt I would do things differently to other builders or to the previous company that I was with, I guess that's sort of what pushes you there. And I guess you just need to make that decision when you finally get there. Is now the time, and there's never going to be the perfect time, right? So, yeah, it was more just we felt that was the time. We got home from 6 months of travel and jumped into it.
So it was a bit of a break from having worked for somebody anyway.
Yeah. So we made the decision. Said we're going to go do 6 months in South America, in Central America, and backpacked around there. Came back and kicked off.
And so, how did you get I guess you had to get your first project to get the ball rolling. So, how did you manage to do that?
Again, family and friends, people you know, just let people know what you're doing. It starts with decks and little renos, little maintenance jobs, fix-ups. All of a sudden you're doing a small little reno for someone, and you just build from there, really. We did do a little bit of contracting work back to my old boss who was still busy, but that didn't last long. We pretty quickly grew, a few guys.
Right.
I guess I sort of rode that, like you say, we've never really had much of a downturn since that 2010 market.
Yeah. So when was it you actually went on your own?
We went out early 2018.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so me and a van and a fresh apprentice and
dog
and some hopes and dreams.
Yeah. And what would you say were your biggest challenges in those sort of first formative years? So I guess to me, you've got a real business when you're about sort of 6 or 8 people. So you challenge getting from where you were, so you're out, you got your ute, you're up and running, maybe got one person working with you to get to that sort of scale. Yeah. What sort of challenges did you experience through that sort of part of the growth?
Oh, everything, really. The ups and downs of business, right?
Yeah.
The chaos that comes with all the planning and all the decision making and all the different inputs that building has. I guess really it was a little bit of a release, knowing that I can't do everything myself. We made the decision to hire a QS direct in-house to take the office role as well as obviously the pricing role, and I guess a little bit of the management side as well and client interaction. So it sort of freed my time up, so I'm not trying to do a 45-hour week on the tools and then another that again
45 hours in the office
in the office after hours. And then I guess that sort of came with the lifestyle decision. Obviously you take a hit with the overhead,
the cost of it,
but I mean the way I looked at it is that gives us the ability to grow, right? And so I think that was probably our 4th or 5th hire.
Right.
From there
so that's pretty early.
But from there we could hire another 3 near instantly, right? So it really helped that growth.
So during that period, is there anything that you look back on that you would think, I did that wrong, or I'll do that differently?
Lots of things. Everything. I mean, I guess it's all part of the learning, right? So you kind of got to go through it to learn it. So to a certain degree, I mean, I'd probably focus a little less on people pleasing, a little less on, bending over backwards the most you can to, just in case they're not quite happy about this, be a little bit less of a perfectionist. That's quite difficult to, relinquish that. I just feel, I mean, obviously that built us, right? And that gives you your name.
I just sort of thinking that's, I don't know, I'd maybe argue against that to say that is actually what you need to be doing when you're at the beginning, because
I agree.
You've got to sort of overdo that stuff to build your reputation. So maybe you can afford to be a bit more mercenary now because you've got a reputation as opposed to trying to build it.
I guess, I mean, I can be a perfectionist to the nth.
There is a balance.
Beyond a little bit of like you're giving your all. It's now you're giving the big kitchen table and so everything else. So.
I was. So I worked as a lagger, which is installing industrial installation. So when I first started my career, I was a storeman, and then I got poached by one of our customers, and I was a lagger. And that, it was actually I only did it for about 18 months on commercial sites with a couple of old pommy guys. And it was really interesting because there's exactly that you could spend forever and get it absolutely perfect, or you could smash it out and it would be really ugly. Yeah. And you really had to learn how to strike the balance between doing a job that you were happy with, but maybe not absolutely perfect, because at the end of the day you had to be within a certain amount of time to make it viable. So it's a lesson, I think, in any sort of business.
I think so, and finding that balance on the different aspects of, like visual things and things that really matter. Your finishing needs to be absolute, like you can't skimp on that. But it's the things like your 10 mil or 3 mil out that your pile's not quite perfectly level, that in the sun it's going to move more than that anyhow, that you kind of, you've spent an extra hour on each one, and all of a sudden a 2-day job is turned into 3 or 4, and so it's the small things that I think I would have worked on more so, sort of changing up things that you could sort of spend more time, and I think that would also give the client even more value, the client even more trust. You'd be done faster. Just it swings and roundabouts, right? If I take forever on something that doesn't need it, the client's going to have to wait longer for that, whether it's priced or not. It's
in accounting they talk about materiality. So is it material or not? And so, and I think that is a big part of success in business, is figuring out what matters and what doesn't. And we've developed our own software, and software, if you want to spend the nth degree on getting things right, that's the place you can do it. And it really is a big lesson between. And something, my previous business, we probably overdid trying to get everything right. And in this business, I've had a really limited availability of software resource, so I've had to be really focused on what's actually going to add value. So there's lots of things in our system that I'm not happy about, and I'd love to get onto and fix them up, but it's what when 2008 happened, one of our customers had this mantra: what makes the boat go faster. So picking it up from Team New Zealand, it was basically focus on things that make the boat go faster, and that sort of stuck as an analogy for
it's a really good analogy, business. Actually,
So if it's not making the boat go faster, we're not going to do it. So figuring out what is going to make your boat go faster is vital. It's a good skill to learn.
Very much so. So that, along with obviously everything else that comes with your client interaction, your management, software that you implement, I should say. Sorry. So
probably implicate as well.
And that
implicate the software that's late because of that.
So I mean, like I say, there's plenty that we do differently. But happy that we've done it how we've done it. You learn from what we've been through.
So I guess that journey, so in terms of, there's obviously a lot of builders out there, and a lot of builders you're effectively competing with in the market. So I guess from hearing what you've learnt over time, that differentiates, part of what differentiates you against your competition. So how much do you focus on how you differentiate yourself against the competitors?
A little bit, I would say. Again, we're not trying to, grow the biggest business in Auckland, right? There's a lot of work. If anything, I mean, we collaborate a lot with other builders. We've got a lot of other friends that are builders. I guess how we differentiate is we're that early integration. We really, really focus on obviously quality, but we're really budget driven as well. And I guess that's sort of the trend we've seen in the last sort of 10 years is shit's getting expensive, right? So if you can bring that element of budget keeping and cost management and cost consultancy in from the get-go, there's a lot less headaches and arguments and all of the drama that happens at the end of the job. So I guess that's our real differentiation.
Because the problem is the budget runs out at the end, it doesn't run out at the beginning. And by the time you're in, it's too late for most things.
It's too late, So we really like to have that planning stage, actually a proper planning stage. So we won't normally start a job within the month. We want a proper month. We want full project schedules. We want full costing. We want to try and give the client the ability to give us some feedback of their style, what they're thinking they may want to change, where they want input, where they're not sure about things, so that we can actually give the feedback back, that they understand the process, because it's pretty normal that a client walks in pretty eyes wide open and then pretty quickly understand that, shoot, I don't actually know as much as I thought I did, but
And it
a lot to
probably
learn.
comes back to that materiality thing as well, is that them learning what actually matters for them and what doesn't. And they've most of the time got a limited budget as well. So what things are going to achieve the best outcome for them with the spend that they've got. Which, I think, the cost-informing design idea around this whole podcast, that's exactly it, is basically understanding the implications of the decisions you make.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the ethos behind what we're trying to do with our business, is help, particularly that design end, when it's cheap to make decisions when it's just on a piece of paper or in a CAD package. So basically helping them make good decisions at that point. So by the time it's getting to guys like you, those hard, it's in the right ballpark.
Yeah, it's not a whole scrap and start again. Exactly right. Yeah. And like you say, I mean, clients have only really got a limited budget and a limited amount of time and really a limited sort of headspace for making decisions. And the amount of decision making you've got when it comes to, sort of a larger build it's taxing.
It's mind-bending.
So we try and sort of front foot that, really give them a full sort of project breakdown. Here's a list of specifications. Here's a list of things we're going to ask you along the way. Yeah. Here's a head start into it. Yeah. Get ready.
So how do you find your customers? Where do they come from?
Generally, they come to us. A lot of it, 90% is still referral based. So from those, hard years that we've really put the time and effort in, it's still, rolling on. We get more clients still now calling saying, hey, we've been referred to you from a family friend or a relative, or so that'll be the bulk of our work. Right. We do a bit of marketing, a bit of SEO work.
So what sort of, when you say marketing, what sort of stuff do you do?
Sort of just your social platform marketing and advertising, a little bit of brand awareness, but not a lot. I kind of feel like it's an expensive exercise, and if I don't personally know how it all works, which I don't personally feel the need to chase it and understand it all, because I know it's a whole game in itself. It's difficult to really get behind just adding ad spend. When there's you can't really see the benefit from it. Whereas
it's definitely a bit of a disconnect. Like when you hit a nail, you see it go in, but with advertising, you hit a nail and you may or may not go in.
Throw it into the ether and hope for the best. So a little bit of that. And
there's lots of people willing to take your money to help you spend your, to do the advertising.
There's a lot of professionals and a lot of experts that call every day.
And I guess, if you're getting enough through that referral base and what you're doing, you've obviously got a reasonably good formula that's sort of giving you what you need. So obviously a lot of, to get referrals, you've basically got to build trust with clients. And so we talked a little bit about when you started off, you maybe felt you over-invested in that.
Yeah.
I don't know, from the sound of it, I don't know if you did. But sort of on an ongoing basis, so how do you build that relationship, build that trust with the clients? And particularly if you're looking to get involved early, I guess you're working with clients that are not going to be shopping out to the market, so you've got to give them the confidence that they're getting a good deal working with you. So how do you go about doing that?
I guess we template everything, right? So we try and give a lot away before it costs anyone anything, and I feel that's kind of the way it has to be. A lot of the market's still giving away free quotes, which boggles my mind, we spend anywhere to sort of 40, 50, 60 plus hours on a single tender, right? So you're doing 5 of those, it's pretty quickly costs you quite a lot of money, right? So if you're not willing, if you're not winning those each time, you're going backwards pretty quickly. So I guess where we're trying to get to is the point of, this is what we're going to give you, this is our expertise. The reason to go with us is because we've got accountability from the start to the finish. We're going to be there holding your hand from the whole way through. We're not just a single consultant that's going to come, give it to you and walk away. But we've also got that accountability of the job throughout, that it does refer back to everything that we've done at the start. So there's kind of no hiding either. But it sort of seems to work. A lot of the time you have to have that face-to-face, because it's not a simple, this is what we do. It's very easy to advertise for it. It's quite difficult to get across to people in an email or two, So, we really need to sit down with clients and try and get that trust base going. And, a lot of the time we get pretty good feedback. A lot of the time the clients that are sort of shopping, they just won't engage us because they don't want to spend anything, right? So,
which does sort of cull out. Some of that.
It's a good qualifier, right? So
if they're not willing to put their hands in their pockets, how serious are they really?
So an hour of my time compared to 40 hours of us pricing something, it's a bit of a no-brainer in my opinion.
Yeah, and I don't know what portion of our customers charge, but whenever I get the opportunity to talk to them about it, I always encourage them because, yeah, like if you want to get your washing machine fixed, they'll charge $100 to give you a quote for it.
Yeah.
So where somehow the market seems to think spending 40 hours pricing a job that maybe the client could never afford, so it was a complete waste of time. It's not like even a competitive situation. Yeah, so I think it's good that you're doing that, and I certainly encourage all builders.
I don't know where it's come from, to be honest.
You can sort of understand, and I guess back in the old days, where you could use square meter rates, because the houses were pretty simple. There wasn't a big deal pricing them, but as houses have got more and more complicated, 40 hours is probably a typical time involved in pricing a modern house. So, for clients to expect you to do that for nothing baffles me a bit.
I mean, even just the single time alone is enough to really warrant some sort of fee. I mean, we don't recover the cost it costs us to do them, but enough to, I guess, get some sort of commitment, right? Yeah,
it almost doesn't matter how much you charge as long as you're charging something. And once they've stuck their hands in their pockets, there's a connection and a commitment.
For sure. So, and you build the trust through that as well, because you're not willing to pay someone that you don't trust, right? Well, generally, especially when it's for an expertise or for advice. So I guess that's again goes back to that qualifying stage of what we do.
And you got to wonder that if the only reason a client didn't go with you is because you were charging $1,000 or $1,500 for a quote, if that's the reason why they don't go with you, are they really going to be a good client at the end of it?
Are they who we want to work with?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So sort of moving into the new house space, I know you've been doing a bit of your own development. So how did you get into that space? So presumably you started off doing, as you said, decks and fences and stuff, and then renovations, then full houses, and then you've moved into doing your own developments. What sort of got you into that?
I love property. So my Instagram feed is I scroll and it's a different architect or it's a different house or it's a different builder, so that's kind of just what I like, what I'm into. So I want the decision making to be on me. I guess, like you say, we started with the decks, started off, then moving into sort of the renos, new builds, but I mean, we still predominantly do renovations, alterations for clients.
Right.
New builds, that's kind of what you can do when you're trying to build a modern house these days. You end up having to be new, or you're using relocatables, or it's just what seemed to make sense at the time. We sort of saw the market dipping a few years ago, and I guess we were in the sort of mindset that we don't really want to lose the guys we've got. We've got a really good crew. How are we going to keep them if we do have a year that we're looking for work? Well, why don't we invest into them and into us and run our numbers? Don't get me wrong, let's not be silly about it, but jump in and see if we can make it work.
So have you developed a bit of a formula for what you're looking at when you're looking at a development?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everything's numbers based, right? So you have to know that you're going to make some money. You have to know that you're going to cover yourself. You've got to make sure that you've got a good contingency. Anything can go wrong. So we kind of look at it in a lot of different lenses. It's not a one-stop shop. We're not just a townhouse builder. We're not just a sort of single house or high-end house. It's really depends on what's going on in the market, where we see things going, what initiatives are out there. I mean, we'd even look at sort of the social housing thing. We'd even look at build to rents, but at the moment they're very, very hard to make stack.
So that was, I guess, the next question was sort of how do you work out the viability of a project, because you're obviously having to predict a lot of things. Not only the build costs, but what's the market value going to be, what's your time going to be on the project. So how do you go through that viability exercise?
There is a lot of data out there though, so we still try and pull as much as we can. I'd like to be informed decision making, or informed sort of ideas, or pulling bits and pieces to try and put that full formula together is sort of still what we're doing. But we'll lean on agents that we know that are selling in that area, or social housing providers that know what the rents are going for, know the demand, know the typology that they need. So it is still a full market analysis. We're not really just diving in and hoping for the best. I mean, we use a lot of softwares as well that we can sort of pull data from, have a look at the site conditions. But I guess over the years, you just learn what works, what doesn't. You know how a site will run generally just by looking at it. I mean, we've been building since 2007, so
a
few years now.
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned enough. It's becoming easy, you know. It's
So I guess at
nature.
Auckland it's typically buying an existing property. Are you generally bowling the house on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Auckland's, I mean, our typology, right? We have very little flat land. And
Yeah, all the easy stuff's long gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And every house that's left on a bit of land is smack bang in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So it's, very, very rarely would be able to reuse the existing or repurpose it, at least on the same site. A lot of the time we'll obviously get it taken away.
Yeah.
But
It's almost worth nothing.
They essentially take it for free, right?
Yeah.
And they sell it
Yeah.
on, but at least it's being reused.
Yeah. Not any up on a tip. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you're looking at sort of how many, looking at planning and so on as to what you can get on there, looking at what's happening, what's moving in the market to try and figure out what sort of typology you're looking to stick in.
Yeah. Again, lean on the people that know. So agents in the area, school zoning, what actually is the sort of benefits of that site in its location. A townhouse over here might work great, but in the next suburb across, it's not going to sell at all. It just doesn't work. So I guess it's just learning the market, right, and leaning on the people that actually know.
Yeah, so it's not that you can just go plonking stuff anywhere. You've actually got to put a bit of legwork in.
Yeah, I guess we're too boutique, right? So we're not quite your developer. We're kind of still a builder. The differentiation, I would say, is the developers, 4 or 5 sites at the time, very, very similar. They can pretty much cut and paste what they're doing on any site.
Yeah.
Ours would be very different from, site to site. So, yeah.
And different price ranges.
Very different price ranges. Yeah, different typologies, different areas. Yeah. So we're kind of looking for value add rather than just where we can make some money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how much affect, there's obviously been a lot of changing in the urban plans and that sort of stuff. So how much does that affect your thinking, and how do you get your head around it to work out, what you're working on now may work under the current plan, but is it going to be there in 2 years' time or whatever?
I've got my planner on speed dial. It's, it affects a lot. I mean, I feel like there's been non-stop, changes really. And even as you feel the dust is settling, a new government will come in and scrap it. So it's very, don't get me wrong, there's always things that could be done better. And I agree with a lot of what is sort of coming in, but a lot of it at the same time I think's way over the top. And so you just got to keep on top of it, keep learning, keep staying current, so you know where and how you can create the value and stay on top of the market. You don't get left behind. Look at the guys in all the flood zones that have bought in 2021. They're sitting on a bit of a
big loss, some of them.
Massive loss. So if you feel for them, because
and the flood zones are almost random, aren't they? Like, one of my mates is, I think it was a son who's got a place in Mount Eden somewhere, and they bought it 2 years ago, or whatever, and it's been written off, and the market price is like their deposit, they've lost their equity. So it's pretty tough.
Yeah, and it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
You kind of can't do anything with it. The land's useless. You can't build on it. You can't sell it. So it is good that they've sort of bought some back, but so keeping your head of that, it's definitely.
So has that changed the sorts of sites you're looking for, or is it you still got a similar formula?
To a certain degree, again, it's all sort of, you look for the best piece of land, right? It starts with the land, where it is, what you can do with it, serviceability. Yeah. So a lot of the time, those sort of flood-prone areas aren't really the best sites anyhow.
Yeah.
They've already been developed because they were generally the lowest, flattest, nearest to the sort of big stormwater
Or they
lines.
weren't developed because in the old days people knew they flooded, so they didn't build there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then we built there in the 70s or 80s when we'd forgotten about all these floods.
Yeah. So not particularly, to be honest. I mean, we don't do enough buying and selling to really be, very honed in on where we have to be buying. So we are pretty widespread, and our sort of lens is quite wide.
And I guess it depends on what's available. It's not like a supermarket where you know it's going to be there.
Exactly.
It's sort of what's in the market when you're ready to be looking.
Yeah.
So you've just finished the development. You got where you're at with the next one you're looking at?
We've just got resource consent for the next one.
Okay.
That's more your family home typology.
Right.
Sort of 4 bedroom, 3 bathroom.
Just one or
5 on
okay.
that. Yeah. That's good school zones, nice area. Not the most easy site to work on, but really private, quiet. So that'll be really nice.
Are you building to sell them or rent them, or what's your typical model?
These ones will be to sell. I think, yeah, the last one that we did, we actually had designed for holding and renting, and they were sort of your 2-bedroom townhouse, sort of perfect single or professional couple, at a price point that's really great for the market as well. So we could happily hold them, and the rental point actually really worked, even with the falling rents. That just hasn't really worked out, so we've sold those down. The next one is these 5, which it has been designed for a sale purpose. It gets quite difficult to hold.
Obviously ties up a capital for a
huge amount of capital.
And the rental is,
it just doesn't.
You're sort of relying on capital gains really at the end of the day to make any money out of it.
And that's speculating. We're just not really into that. So I'd rather recycle it. Obviously pay your tax on it, but at least then you've got the cash flow to carry on and capital to look at others. I mean, even still, we're looking at single houses again. I'd like to lean back on our sort of expertise and the sort of heritage zones.
Right.
That's what we do sort of day in, day out. So it'd be nice to get back into that ourselves.
So you talk about getting resource consent. How do you find your mates at the council to deal with that? What sort of challenges have you experienced with that?
Well, when you can get in touch with them, or when they pick it up, great. They've got some amazing people that work there. But I think, like anything government related or local body related, it's pretty understaffed and pretty hectic situations and hectic working conditions, or the amount that they need to get through. So slow is what I would say. Everything is slow. So whether consents are down at the lowest they've been since 2014 or so, doesn't matter. They're still just as busy as they were at the peak. So I guess with the time that they've got, we would say that they're definitely doing a lot more checks and balances and going through a lot more thoroughly.
So it's got worse, is it, in terms of nitpicking? Or?
Oh, absolutely. I guess during that height of the market, they didn't have the time, right? And they were under that statutory timeline, and they kept to it. So, But at the moment, I suppose they've got the time. They sort of come back and forth.
Being thorough, should we say?
A lot more thorough, Which, don't get me wrong, I think it's a good thing. You just got to know who you're dealing with and what their tendencies are. I mean, we're lucky that we've got really good planners and consultants that work really well alongside council, even work for council. So it's use their expertise really.
So you mentioned you do a lot of costing and scheduling early on in the project. So how do you, once you've got underway, so you've done the deal with the client, you're getting going, how do you track things from both a cost and a schedule perspective?
Software.
So what sort of software do you use?
Well, we use a software called Wonderbuild. It's Australian software. Right. It's it's actually really cool. Really quite intuitive. The clients can use it as well. I guess we still, like a lot of the sort of older school builders, we do a lot of templating as well.
So Excel templates you're doing?
Excels, but Words, just document, and then it is literally give it to a client. Here's your drive folder. If you need anything, we'll print it out for you. We'll come to site. Then it's tangible. They fill it out, and then it gets down onto paper. We've found a lot of the time here's an app that will help you with. They'll look at it, look at the photos, look at the updates, and that's it. We won't actually get a lot out of it from them. So we kind of run them side by side. The benefit of on the client side is they've got that sort of full transparency. But I guess for our management side, we actually need to pull a lot of information from them. We find it's easier with templates and paper still.
And you've got that audit trail, you've got that record. If anything.
Exactly. And so, the templates are side by side. One's on an iPad, which I mean, I don't really use paper at all personally. But all my plans are on an iPad, or all my documents are on an iPad. But for a client, they seem to like a piece of paper to draw on, and I'll just update that on my iPad, and then it's back into the drive. So that's sort of our tracking and sort of job software.
And are you using Wonderbuild for the tracking the schedule as well?
Or? So that's our main scheduling tool.
Right.
And that sort of comes through. So even when we sort of change a price, it sort of ties into your construction schedule as well. There's obviously tweaking that you need to do with that, but it's sort of, if it's got to do anything with the critical path, then it's automatic.
Let you know better.
Yeah. Amazing.
So if you start picking up things that are going off track, sort of how do you respond to them? I guess either from a schedule or a cost point of view, and often the two are interrelated.
Very much so. Yeah, a lot of the time it is just because you haven't picked up on something on site. It'll be there's been a variation, or a subby can't get there, right? So it won't be that you're sort of going off track. It's more you've jumped way ahead and it's not picked it up because the guys haven't filled in,
right?
Or it hasn't picked it up from the timesheets from the last 2 weeks or something like that.
Are you using Wonderbill for timesheets as well? Or?
Yeah, and Xero, so it sort of links between. Right. Yeah. So I guess we track it sort of week on week, and we sort of do our progress update client forms weekly, or project management forms for them to sort of see and track progress. And from there you can pick up a lot. And that's also how we invoice. We sort of invoice from our project management tools. So that's our communication tool between the office and the on-site guys.
Right.
Yeah. And then obviously the QS will go out once a week and go through any variations, see how the job's going, and update anything that's needed.
So you got internal processes to pick up on the variations?
Yeah. Yep. So especially the project managers, but most of the guys should know from the get-go. They've had a look at the quote, if it's a quoted job, or they've had a look at the full scope or the tender, or however we've set it up, and try to understand where and what we've done. If they're not sure, on the phone, but a lot of the time I'm still doing a lot of the client-facing stuff, so variations generally get talked about then and there, and talked about, send over, and then if they want to get a price, or if they're happy for us to go ahead, we'll just send them a follow-up summary email and just make sure that they're happy with it, so that it's all in writing and they're well aware of what they're in for. So try and front foot everything.
Relying on the old memory, it
doesn't work anymore.
So we've something we've been really focused on, because often you're like, you make a change on a job, we've done an estimate and the client will come back and want some changes, and then 6 months later they'll ring you up and say, oh, why did we do that? I can't remember. So now we've always been pretty good, but we're just forever getting more and more anal about trying to record. If they ask us something that has an impact, to try and make sure we've got a note somewhere, so that it may not even be you, but maybe somebody else worked on it or whatever. Just to try and keep that record.
Or a subby, right? So we have to track all of our subbies because we only do so that main contract work. So it's just that communication right across the board that we really focus on. We've definitely had to learn the hard way with that. So it's a big focus of ours now.
So how do you go around just sort of raising the subject of subbies? That was the next on my list of things to talk about. So how do you go about choosing the subbies you work with? Because obviously on a typical residential project, there's a lot of other people. Like, we look at it and it's sort of 50 to 70 on any typical project, which is actually a lot of coordination. It's way more complicated than I think a lot of people realise. So how do you go about working out who you're going to work with, and do you have multiple people of the, like multiple electricians or multiple plumbers, or do you work with one?
Generally just the same guys over and over. So owner occupiers, owner operators, the guys that actually are still sort of on the tools, or if not, managing the guys on the tools. Just keep the same guys, have a really good crew, know that you sort of align in your own values as well, so you're not having that issue if there is an issue. And I mean, as hard as it is to say now, you're kind of as good as your last stuff up. It always happens. Like, it's human nature, right? We're all human. It's gonna happen. We make mistakes, but it's how you deal with it that really matters to us now. So all the guys that we've got now, we're really, really stoked with. We've got a really good aligned sort of value proposition for the client, and they all come on from the get-go as well, because we need a lot from them prior to a tender going forward, or if we're doing any sort of cost analysis, they're involved as well. So it's just that trust and balance between.
Right. So you mentioned the word tender. So are you actually tendering against other people, or are you just using that as your terminology for the price of the client?
Generally.
Right.
I mean, we'll tender. If we're tendering, it's generally against maybe one other.
Right.
For a lot of the time, we're still sort of a preferred supplier. But to be honest, I'd almost tell most clients, make sure you're getting two prices, because who knows, we could just be way out on for some reason. But it's just, I guess it helps build that trust as well. If you're the only person, I mean, a lot of the time we are the only ones, and we do a lot of work obviously prior to getting to a point. So a lot of people just do not want to go through the same hassle and
with somebody
time.
else.
And,
It's a big time investment. I guess that's part of what we often say to builders is we can be that alternative view of it. So rather than having to go and talk to another builder who's going to spend 40 hours pricing it, and you know that only one of them is going to win it, is basically involve an independent QS to give that external view as to whether you've been reasonable with what you've done and you've not made any mistakes. So,
for sure, yeah. And to be honest, I feel like that's sort of the architect's job as well, to sort of educate around that piece to a certain degree.
They don't have in my experience, they don't have a good handle on costs.
No.
And it's not that surprising because...
What I mean, sorry, is they should be putting forward a third-party QS.
And that's when we do a lot of that, And really they should have had it QS. If you're not involved before the design stage, if you're getting a design that somebody else has done, they should have absolutely had it QS by somebody at some point before.
There's still a lot of architects that just like to see and get it dictated by the market, right? So I just don't feel that's...
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of tenders because I don't really, and like we've had one at the moment. It sort of feel like architects inserting themselves in that tender process, and I don't know if it adds that much value because trying to and we're working with one builder where we've spent a whole lot of time unpicking things because of questions from the architect, and it's because they're trying to evaluate 2, 3, 4 builders tenders that are all completely different. This architect had invented their own tender structure, so we were all having to align our normal structures to how they wanted it, and there's obviously a lot of assumptions in that, so for them to try and make sense of it ends up being a really big job. And at the end of the day, are you going to select the builder that was the lowest tenderer? You're going to be selecting on a bunch of other reasons, and if you feel you have to go to that process to check the market, I think there's better ways. I think using a QS is a better way of doing that market check as opposed to me, a really inefficient process overall.
I agree. And it takes a long time as well. You're really waiting. So, it could be a 2-month tender process, right? And
I still don't think it really assures that much better outcome at the end of it.
No. Well, you're hoping that the architect's only bringing pretty good, solid operators, right, from a get-go. I guess, the way we look at it is they're just trying to chop down that price and make everyone cut the margins, right? So which trying to do the best for the client in terms of price point, but is that still when they're, chopping all the margin out and then they get to the end and then they're going to be
squeezing on variations or, it's going to be, to me, sets up an adversarial environment. And we work with 350 odd builders and the range of margins is relatively narrow and we very rarely get them where they're coming back and saying, okay, we want to take a chunk out of the margin. And I think, if anything, most builders are making too little. I think the margins that they're making, when you look at the risk and responsibility that you're taking on, if you were any other sort of business, you'd be wanting a much bigger return out of it than what builders typically get. So trying to squeeze the builder's margin, you can sort of see the appeal for it. But as an industry overall thing, it's not good.
I don't think so either. But like you say, every time we do a tender, there's nothing to compare, right? It's you're all about the same price. So you spent money on the tender process, money on the cost consultancy side for the architect to do the tender analysis, and then you're still no further ahead.
You're still got to have something to make the decision. And maybe you weeded out the high and the low. Maybe. You probably could have done that anyway.
Exactly.
And the high and the low could be somebody's made some mistakes, or made some assumptions or whatever that are different. Is it really reflective on what the value they would have delivered you?
Hard to know, really.
So it's been great talking through things with you, Joe. So is there anything else that's a burning issue that you want to get off your chest? Anything else you want to raise?
I think we're in a good space. I feel like this downturn's really sort of not weeded out the dead weight, but certainly made everyone reassess and see how difficult it can be. So I think the collaboration piece is really a big and important piece going forward when we do hopefully start seeing that bump up in consents and bump up in workload. And, so I know, like you say, a lot of guys have let guys go. And so when everyone does start getting busier, hopefully it's not that feeding frenzy. Hopefully it's a lot more of a collaborative process, right?
It's certainly the economic forecasts and stuff I've been seeing is that the next 2 or 3 years is going to be pretty similar to what we've got now. So I'm hoping we're at the bottom and it's a little bit at least a little bit better. It's not going to get worse, but I don't. My expectation is with what we've got now is basically you've got to size your business to deal with that. And you look at industry. I think it was 16,000 jobs gone out of the construction sector. So
wild.
that's a lot of resource gone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I suppose do the best we can to stop them all leaving to Aussie.
Yeah, and I think exactly. And I think your sort of point around. We sort of had a bit of a materiality theme through it. Is now as things start picking up, it's going to be making sure you focus your resources where you're going to get the best return on it. So whether that's your business, your customers you're looking for, so making sure you pick the best customers. So hopefully it will be that little bit of desperation of just trying to keep the doors open is gone, and we'll be able to focus a bit more on making our businesses good. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. So, thanks for joining us today. If you want a QS that really understands building and is very interested in trying to deliver a good outcome for your business, then talk to me at your QS. If you want to talk to a builder that's really understands his business, and from the discussion today, we're really aligned in a lot of our thinking. So somebody who's also very interested in their process and trying to ensure that they're delivering a good outcome for their clients, then talk to Joe from JRA Construction.